Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Joe Davis from Southern New Hampshire University. We're going to talk about Milestone 4, which is in Module 5. This particular assignment is your final project, but it's done in a draft version, a full draft of your incident report. Go to the guidelines and rubric. I'm going to open it up and show you, but we won't spend much time on it. These are the things that need to be in this draft final incident report. You need to have your field notes sheet. You need to have your incident report, which was the who, what, when, where, why, and how. And then you need the supplemental report that was the follow-up or second officer's interview of the witnesses in the neighborhood. But first, let's take a quick look at the guidelines and rubric. Okay, here we go. Should look familiar. As a matter of fact, if you look at this guideline rubric document and the one for the final project, they're almost identical. So you can see the explanation here of you need your field note sheet. That was the first milestone, milestone 1. Then you need your incident report, which in most of the places it's referred to as the who, what, when, where, why, and how. But it's the report you wrote about the incident that happened. Okay, here are the items in the rubric, the critical elements, and you'll notice that the first ones are all about note taking. Okay, cohesiveness of your field notes, the accuracy of your field notes, your observations and functions, pertinent information that was disseminated from other sources. Okay, so you need to have all of those, which is what basically this whole assignment is about. Then the essential details of your report. These are exactly the same critical elements from that module also, from that milestone. As you can see, then the risk, liability, pattern of organization, and of course rules of grammar and syntax, 20% of your grade. So there's the rubric and the guidelines in a nutshell. Please, please, please take time to read through this. Make sure you understand it. If you have questions, let me know. Okay, if we take a look at what's really expected, what do you have to put in your paper and turn into me by the end of the week here? What you need in this order is the document, your narrative, the who, what, when, where, why, and how. That would be milestone number 3. The next part of your report will be the supplemental report, milestone 2, and then the last example will be your field notes from milestone 1. Other instructors may do it in a different order or do it in a different method. To me, this makes sense because it's the way you would submit it if it was a real police report. You'd turn in your narrative, and whoever wrote the supplementals would turn in their report with their supplemental report. You'd keep your field notes. Okay, so that's why I put those at the end. Here's an example that I'll email to everyone so you can see what my expectations are to meet the critical elements of the rubric. Okay, let's take a look at this sample paper. As I said, I will email everyone a copy of this. This is the way I would expect to see your paper come in. It starts out with the narrative of what you did. You were the primary officer, you were dispatched, you were assigned to handle a call. Okay, so you were dispatched, you arrived. Here's what you saw when you arrived. You saw the red pickup truck, you saw children in the street, you saw people looking out the window from across the street. You saw a woman sitting with crying, you identified her, so on and so forth. Over here on page 2, Officer John Smith arrived on scene. I updated him on the current situation and observations. They went to the backyard. Here's your interview of Paul Jones. You get down here that Smith and I determined that Jones was the primary aggressor, so you arrested him. You're going to transport, and it says Officer Smith remained at the scene and collected written statements from witnesses James Hardy and Penelope Perkins. See Officer Smith's supplemental report for the details of those interviews. Okay, that's going to be page 3. Do a page break or whatever and just start writing. Yes, in the real world, this would be a separate piece of paper on a separate form. We're turning in an academic project here. Okay, so Smith says, I was assigned as the second officer. When I arrived, John Smith briefed me on what was going on. I apologize, the names are overlapping there. It's less confusing like this. Smith's in everything. You're one of them, Smith's the other one. So he was briefed on what happened after the update of what was going on. Here's what he did and learned. Then he went over and interviewed Mr. Hardy in the backyard. Then up here is the rest of Miss Perkins's interview. Okay, now the third item probably would not be submitted with your paperwork with a report, but for our academic purposes, I'm going to see your field notes. So just attach those at the end. And as you can see, here's a fairly thorough, comprehensive set of field notes. I will compare your field notes against both your narratives. Okay, I hope that helps you a little bit. Keep the cards and letters coming. Let me know what I can do to get you started on this.